the direction of the former axis had diverted from its vertical position to the Earth's orbit at an angle of 23 degrees. Since the new tilt, to be added to this axis, due to the polar shift is 13 degrees, the obliquity degree which the new axis will gradually tilt and reach as the final limit, will be 23 degrees plus 13 degrees equals 36 degrees. Since the Earth's rotation around its own axis will always occur around its own axis, rotational directions of the Earth around its own axis will change as well, according to this changed tilting. Therefore, the polar points will occur, according to the new rotational ways the Earth's magnetic fields will engage on, because of the necessity of their disrupted equilibria, and the axis will emerge accordingly. These polar points, where the motions of the Earth are at zero, as it rotates around on its own axis, will be the points, which are antipodes of each other, that is, the points of two hemispheres, which are diametrically opposite sides, and these are the points we indicated above. However, this situation belongs to the final stage, and will not occur at the first direct contact of the planet with the solar system. At the beginning, the north and south poles will start to shift very gradually toward these points. The initial influence of the planet, which manifests in this way, will begin vaguely 50 years later, and will continue very gradually between 50 and 100 years, and some slightly obvious climate changes will begin 50 years later. Nevertheless, this situation will still be not to a degree which preoccupies mankind. Changes at the equilibrium states, which follow the initial disruption of the Earth's equilibrium, by the initial influence of the planet, will continue on, until the moment the complete equilibrium is established, through the successive value differentiations, which will go on between the motions of world parts. And this will occur as such: after the initial equilibrium disruption, former poles will get warmer. Consequently, the ice at the former North Pole which exists on the seas, and the ice at the former South Pole which sits on the land, will thaw as well because of the warming of those places. With the melting of the ice at the North Pole, the volume of the seas at this region will decrease, and with the melting of the ice at the South Pole over the lands, immense water masses will pour into the seas, and contrarily, the volume of the waters in the South Sea will increase. Consequently, as a result of the imbalance in the seas around the two poles, a great water current will start from south to north, and this situation will begin to impose new influences over the Earth's magnetic field, but stronger than the influence of the incoming planet does, and will cause the Earth's magnetic equilibrium lines to change more and more, and these will lead to other motions, and thence, the poles will then begin to converge on the points we indicated above, no longer by an external influence, but by the influences resulting from the equilibrium changes, which will occur through the successive value differentiation mechanism of the Earth, in the wake of this influence. Therefore, the first influence, which causes the poles to shift upon the sphere, will come from the sojourner planet, and then, the influence which will complete this deed, will continue with the value differentiation mechanism of the motions of the Earth's own structure. Consequently, the equilibrium changes the Earth with its disrupted balance will go through, until it reaches a state of complete equilibrium, will increase much more in the years following the 100th year, and ensure the swift convergence of the polar point to the places we delineated above. At the time the polar points get near to this final state, these changes will occur at the tropics as well. The Tropic of Cancer will be 36 degrees latitude north of the new equator, relative to the Earth's new axis against the Sun, and likewise, the Tropic of Capricorn will be 36 degrees latitude south of the equator. From the 100th year on, climates will gradually get near to the states, expressed by these final degrees of temperature. When the final state is reached, the equilibrium of the Earth will be abruptly disturbed, and as we said, the world will be upside down, within a short time with a semicircle turn. That is, the North Pole will replace the South Pole, and the South Pole will replace the North Pole. However, as we have previously said, we again state that these changes will occur, not in the form of an impact to the sphere and its becoming topsy-turvy, but in the form of the pole shift. When the world is turned upside down, by making a semicircle turn through the mechanism explained above, it is natural that the new axis of the Earth will take on a new direction, according to the rotational state which will occur by the newly established equilibrium of the world. So, the events in the final stage of the world sinking which we have mentioned, that is, the moments of the world submerging and Judgment Day, will correspond to the radical disruptions in the equilibrium during the Earth's becoming abruptly upside down, which starts suddenly, after the poles reach the final points we indicated, by first shifting gradually, which is completed within a few hours, as the North Pole shifts to the south, and replaces the South Pole, and on the other hand, the South Pole replaces the North Pole. However, the upheaval of the poles, after this semicircle turn of the Earth, will not put into effect a distinct change in the new world, even no change at all. For, after the poles are upside down, there will be no constituent belonging to the former geographical states, comparing the points where the new poles will be established with the former countries, and the geographical situation will be out of question. Therefore, the new world to be born, regardless of which degree its axial tilt will have a North Pole and a South Pole like today, and its poles belonging to the previous cycle will be of something of a past forgotten forever, together with all its geographical constitutions. It should never be forgotten that the influences which put into effect all these events and consequences descend directly or indirectly to the magnetic field of the world, from the sublime plan which is engaged with providing the states the world needs, as we always repeat, in accordance with the original directives filtering from the unitary. Doses of these influences are sent with their exact values, neither a little more nor a little less, and so the original necessities are executed. Therefore, all these acts are not unplanned, but are put into effect within certain criteria, and orientated to the purpose of application of an immense evolutionary plan. And all of these are devices which are full of wisdom, and established within the immense harmony and order of universe on the evolutionary path. In this day of utter confusion there is not a disaster as it is seen. Things that happen here will ensure, on the one hand, the transition of mankind to the realms they deserved, who successfully completed their evolutionary cycles in the world, and turned their backs on world matter which does not satisfy them anymore, and on the other hand, they will fulfill the needs of unprepared mankind who long for returning back to coarse matter, and could not shake themselves free of coarse matter, assuming that happiness would only be gained by becoming buried in that matter. The mechanism of destiny appreciates the degrees of merit, in accordance with mankind's efforts, on the path of attaining the spaces they choose, want and need, by their freedom which is taken as a basic in evolution, and they execute their necessities accordingly. Consequently, at the stage of the world's closing, everybody will find what he seeks, his needs will be responded to, he will reach his place at the merit steps of the evolutionary ladder, and by this, the ones who progress will progress, and those who regress will remain in their place. Therefore, in spite of their horrible and formidable appearances, these closing scenes of the world will be the greatest moment of liberation, the arising of the most joyful and happiest day, the breaking of the greatest Redeemer dawn, which was expected for ages. Here we have shown that the world, by completing another developmental cycle, since the closing of the Mu cycle, is about to add another one to its openings and closings, which have been repeated hundreds of thousands of times. This situation, which has been determined for the world in the face of the sublime principles, will continue again and again, And consequently, each time the world will prepare the ground for mankind to become completely free of the world and leave in masses, in order to pass to the higher realms which they need and have acquired the merit for, after completing their evolutionary preparations particular to the world, by utilizing all developmental possibilities of its one cycle.